Okay, well, while we get Rich's computer online, can everyone hear me first? Yeah, goes through the corner pretty well. All right. Okay, so just kind of the lay of the land here. Good morning, everybody. I'm Lucas Simon, Commission Chairman. This is Commissioner Bridgeland, Commissioner Lee Paul, to my, it's behind me here, is that you got away, which are really consulting your piece that the man we hired to help us through the budgeting process. So we'll answer some questions if you have, we'll make comments. He might have some questions too. He's very knowledgeable on all. So this is a two-part meeting up here, I guess, for lack of a better term. First portion is we're going to vote exceed or not exceed the revenue neutral. So I've got the script Jeremiah at, and it's very formal for me, but I'll just read it. Potentially, you'll have an opportunity to speak to go above or below the RNR. So if you have comments for that or questions about that, now's the time. Then once we get through that part of it, then we'll move into the budget hearing part of it. We have questions or comments specifically related to the budget and individual components. That's what will be addressed. So does that make sense? Sort of, and we're a pretty good group of fellows up here. We're not hardcore. You have to do it this way. So if somebody flips up and diverts into R&R, we should be talking about budget. I mean, that's all. All right, so we want to hear what you have to say, and it's your government here. That sounds cliche, but so you got ideas, questions, or concerns, and now it's the time. It's not the only time. So today we don't necessarily have to lock in, but and I know Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning is not the really greatest time for working people to show up and talk. But we don't have anything on Friday. 5:30 in the afternoon, integration of the spirit. Be another opportunity. Right now we roll into next Tuesday, it's Labor Day week. We really are open. Our plan as a commission is to lock this budget down Tuesday next week. So, if I didn't do it already, we're going to come out of recess, call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the revenue neutral hearing. So the meeting of the Brown County Commission will come to order at 9:03 a.m. on August 25, 2025, with all members present. Welcome everybody to the revenue neutral rate hearing. The purpose of this hearing is for us to listen to and answer objections of taxpayers relating to the revenue neutral rate and the proposed tax rate as required by Kansas statute 79-2988. The hearing will now be open for comments. Each person will have 3 minutes to voice their concern. 3 minutes is a number, if you're in the middle of a really good thought, we'll let you finish it, okay? So now's the time. Is there any concerns, questions, objections, and you know that the commission voting to exceed the podium is where you go. Please introduce yourself to the group so we
My name's Chris Ball. Can you hear me? There. My name's Chris Kroll. I'm from Fairview. Not my first time here, not my first time talking to any of the commissioners. What I'd like to start off with today, I'll ask this question to the board. I'd like to see if we have any answers on it. But what in this budget is constitutional or statutorily required? If I can, maybe narrow it down a little bit and help you guys out. Is the library constitution money or statutorily required to be funded by the county? No. Health plan? City, the health plan?
You might be employee benefits, yeah, I think you mean. No,
It is, I think it's gonna tell you how much
okay.
you're supposed to, do. Historical society? No. Conservation?
No, I'm pretty sure.
Ambulance?
Oh, yeah. I think that one is
No. We're required constitutionally or statutorily to fund a private company, Brown County for ambulance.
I would say.
I mean, that's, I'm just trying to clarify this.
Sure, sure.
No answer.
I tell you,
And that's okay if you don't know.
I don't know it off the top of my head. There's two ways to fund an ambulance, whether you do it like I've done Marion County forever. They have their own ambulance service, or you have a contracted service. Jackson County contracts like another time, I know Osage County, but it's, I'm not sure it's on this sheet that he's looking at, that Lucas is looking at too. This is put out by the Kansas Association of Counties. And it has each of the statutory required pieces of that, but the problem is it's very vague. You know, it says like, emergency management, okay? Well, is that FEMA related, or is that like your case, you know, emergency services? That's the reason it's hard to.
Okay. Noxious weeds.
That is.
It is constitutionally
On here with that.
Well, our future state.
Just weed eradication.
Okay. Services for the elderly.
Thank you, Dr. Andre. Both of the county citizens.
We voted on in 1975 to provide services to the elderly
Right.
in Brown County. When was the last time you visited that county?
2012, wasn't it? 11 or 12, or was this? Because originally it was, I speak.
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know, I have it right here, but originally it was voted on to have 1 mil levy in 1974, 75. And then I believe it was 2012 that it was changed, that was at the discretion, I think, I may be saying, they could lower it below 1 mil, but it was a vote of the people. And that happens quite a bit. There'll be statutory requirements like we have on this sheet, but then there'll be like, another county I was working on, they were wanting to lower it, but they couldn't because it was a vote of the people.
And that's why I'm asking for clarification, because there's a lot of money out there that doesn't look like we are required to spend that we are. And we don't have to go through all of these. I don't want to eat up my 3 minutes, it's probably already. But if you go through all of these, now some of those you said are constitutional or statutory required. So it takes out some of those aren't very much that we did take out. By doing the math with all of these programs, that I don't see the statutory requirement for a constitutional requirement for the taxpayers to fund, which means it's extra. We don't have extra. I don't know about anybody in this room, if they have extra at the end of the month. But I have some of that. But that, if you take all of those and add them up, it comes to about $1.3 million annually. You can max out of the budget today. Is that going to make people happy? Not the people in this building. But when you go buy a car, you need a car, get from point A to point B. And if you can't afford the add-ons for the extras, like the moonroof, the power windows, power doors, maybe upgrade the engine a little bit, you can't buy it because that stuff's extra. County government in general should be operating at a bare minimum for what they have to do. This is not something to see how good you can do and see how much money you can spend. We all know government's really good at that. But there's a lot of money in this budget that you could just tax today. How's that going to affect people? And I'm sorry for that, but it's not my responsibility as a taxpayer. One of them that really hits hard is the employee health plan. yes, you guys are supposed to provide employee benefits. That's required. I know that, but again, like Mr. Lloyd said, it's very vague. And I don't know how in good conscience you can provide a plan like you do, when you know there are better plans for less money, better health coverage, for better outcomes. That's a big miss. That would work fraud. It's a misappropriation of funds at least. And have last thing, and I'll get out of here. Another way to cut the budget would be, why don't we take this building and just keep it open 4 days a week? Nothing says we have to do it in 5 days, because so much of this stuff is online anyways. There's a way to save some money. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
That's great.
Do
Thank
you
you.
have any questions for me?
Well, I'll tell you that on the insurance, we are looking into it.
Right.
So, they're doing, it's not what you want to hear, but they already had information, just to make sure on different plans, different, ways of getting employees health insurance, that may look different than what we currently have. So the deadline means it's October 1st, or some October 1st deadline, before they can recruit. And, I mean, we're working on it. Sounds like a politician against it, but we all are. I mean, it should.
Right. I have a hard time seeing private industry providing the level of health benefits that county employees receive. I would love to be in the county plan. You know, with $5,000 deductible, the county pays the first $4,000 of it. I would want to deduct all the time, everything, everything. But that's ridiculous.
It's mine, the county pays the last 1,000. Employee raises.
Right.
It is a deal.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'll get that.
Okay, who's next?
Well, since we're on my name is Annette Hospital in Rockland, and we're on the RNR Budget. I would just like to say I am against exceeding RNR, which means we're raising your budget above last year's budget. That's what that means. Spending more money than last year, and I just want to say I'm against raising the RNR, exceeding it. I have more on the budget, but I'll say it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Come on.
Richard Shulman, and I think that we pertain to this area of your act. So we had some research done, and out of 5 counties, Brown County has lost the most residents since 1980. We've lost 23.5%. Atchison has lost 11, Donovan 18. Jackson County actually increased by 16%, and Nemaha lost by 10%. With that, the median income, Brown is the lowest at 61.5 for 2020. That's the latest information that we get us, that we got from the state. Atchison was at 63.5, Donovan was 66.1, Jackson at 70,000, Nemaha at 81.3. With that being said, I looked up the taxes for 18, and what your proposed deal is if you go above our. We got one rental in 2018 was 480. Next year, your proposed budget will be 1,237. None of you guys have control. This is all entities. This is not just the county, it's the city of Taylor, school.
Yeah, what did you just say, 41?
481 to 1237.
What are those numbers you hiding this?
In 2018, our taxes on property was 481, and next year your proposal is 1237. With that being said, the insurance went from 821 to 718. On the house we live in, it went from just a hair over 3,900 to 6,000.
This is from 18.
2020, this will be under your new proposed budget. Insurance went from 1,550 to 3,875. Another rental went from 1465 to 2695, and the insurance went from 800 to 1400. With that being said, some of the people we rent to are on Social Security fixed income. We try to hold our rent as reasonable as possible. But with that being said, we're gonna have to go up on rent, and those people on fixed income, this is going to take out their problem. And so I just got one comment to say. And I know this is, but this was a Supreme Court deal, and it had to be. It was in 1874. The Supreme Court pointed out historical instances in which the power of taxation has been used to completely eliminate specific industries, including that of the Petty State banking and like the physical banking, but the taxation. If you follow through what it is, the power to tax is therefore the strongest, the most pervasive of all the powers of government, reaching directly and indirectly to all classes of the people. It is said that Chief Justice Marshall, in the case of McCullough versus State of Maryland, that the power of tax is the power to destroy. The striking influence of the truth of this proposition is seen in the fact that the existing tax of 10% imposed on the United States on the circulation of all other banks than the national bank drove the existence of every state bank of circulation within a year or two in its passage. It ruins the fact that what this is going to do, if you keep taxing, it's going to ruin the ability to own property. So I just ask, I know you guys are sitting in a tough position. We have a tough job. We're just asking you guys to look at that. But, I mean, it is easy to ask for more money, and you guys have that power. But always remember that is the power to destroy too. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm riding off and drop Kansas. Anyway, I don't want you to all feel about revenue people rating because I don't read well. I try to thumb through the Kansas Constitution best I could. And the only thing I can get out of the whole thing about property tax is there's no limit in the state of Kansas. The amount of money that you can ask for personal property. I don't know what the statute number is, it seemed like there was 7 or 8 or somewhere. And as business owners, I cannot afford anymore. Our taxes went up, our assessment went up 65% that too. Well, I don't know, I can't generate enough money to operate a business like that. And I know you three are great guys. I like everyone. That you cannot, it's just terrible. I can't run a business like this. I can't work and get the kind of benefits that you guys give your employees. I got one employee, his benefit, his insurance, the driver calls his, not his family or whatever. He gets 2 weeks paid vacation during, whether it comes or not. Most of the time he don't take it. And there are so many things in this budget that can be axed, like Mr. Kroll said. And I'm not a budget person. Because what I do, you've got to fly by the seat of your pants, and I get a lot of this. But there's no end to it. None. I mean, y'all can just keep going up, you keep going up, you keep going up. And it's gonna come to a point where we have no way out of this for normal taxpayer. And I know that ain't what y'all want to do, and I know that ain't what I want to get home now. I don't want to tear a corporation over stupid tax. But I will. I ain't scared of it. I got more on this.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, hello.
I'm Greg Stevenson, Robinson. And I'm just here against the revenue neutral rate. That's my biggest concern. The mill levy that we have is what was voted in by the public. And that's what we should stick by. There shouldn't be any of it. I think it's unconstitutional if there's such a thing as this, whatever we quoted it was, the number, to allow a revenue neutral to go above. Because we voted for that revenue rate, that's what it should stay at. You know, it's going up 9 mils more than what we voted for. If you really need that much more money, why can't we put that for a public vote? It's the public that wants, you know, it's the public that, and when we give you guys the power to just go above that, and as someone over here just said, you can just do it this, we did it last year, now we're gonna do it again. What's it gonna be next year and the year after? You can just keep, why don't we even vote for a mill if that's the case? I can't understand why you can be allowed to go over your budget when the budget was set by the public in a vote. So this shouldn't be something that we all come in here and bitch at you guys about why it's going over the top. And then at the end, you guys get to vote whatever the three of you believe is the right thing to do. Nobody here voted that power to the commissioners to say that you can raise our rates to whatever you want it to be. Well, it's not necessarily what you want it to be, what the budget says it should be. Now, the budget issue, like you said, is a whole different issue. How much money is being spent, excuse me, in what area? That's a hard thing to do. Last year, we were at this point and we were 2% above what the budget was supposed to be. My suggestion was that everybody 2%, you manage your budget. 2%, if you can't operate in 2% less than what you were doing before, it shouldn't be in operation in the first place. So they could have done that, but no, as soon as everybody was done talking, all of you except Lucas just said, no, it didn't take you 30 seconds to vote, we're going over the top. I didn't feel like there was any thought in that whatsoever at the time. You just guys listened to everybody bitch, and then you decided to do what you wanted to do anyway. I think the budget's a whole nother issue. What's in there that could be cut. Absolute budgets can always be cut. It's whether or not you're willing to do that and have enough constituents, screaming at you for why you're doing this. But it's the budget. It needs to go over. It needs to go to a public vote because it's the public's money. And you already answered the one question, Lucas, about I'm really upset with the fact that there was only this 9 o'clock meeting on a Monday morning. Last year it was Labor Day when everybody's just getting back to work. But you did say there's some other meetings for people to come to if they want to talk about it before you set the budget. So that's a good thing. I like that, and I really thank you for doing that. Because I know a lot of people that have to work. They can't come in here at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. So that's all I have to say. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, my name's Mary Wade. I live at 304 Comanche Drive, which is right behind Runa. My husband and I moved back here 15 years ago from Las Vegas, Nevada. At that place, I was the comptroller. I did budgets and knew how budgets worked. I knew that there were overages that should be considered in a budget. If I have a budget, for instance, a school has stayed under budget, then it needs to be reclassified or adjusted for the following year. My question on my budget, I'm looking at a 25 proposed tax, which is 139.708. Is that correct? We're looking at a $600 increase for my house. My house in the neighborhood is the smallest house in the neighborhood. I have, with the basement included, I probably have about 2,000 square feet. I am retired. I am on a fixed income, such as a lot of the other seniors, and take into consideration that there are a lot of senior citizens in Hiawatha and in surrounding areas that should be considered. We continue paying for the school, and I don't have an issue with continue paying for the school. I paid for my children's school when they were there. But I would like to know if there ever is any movement in our budget, such as if we set the school budget for $100,000. Do they spend it all? And I've had hearsay that, oh, the budget's running out, let's find some place to spend this money. so that we can get more money. And that is a pretty much fact, and overall, it's in city government, that if you have budgeted a certain amount of money, for a budget, they try to find something else to spend it on so that they can continue getting that. I personally would like to know what you use for comps on my home. We have some nice homes in our area that have been, constructed. When we lived there, there was, see, we have we have 5 new houses that were built. My house is a modest house. The most we paid put into that house is a new driveway. But I would like to know the justification for having to pay $3,200 a year, when last year my taxes were 26. And I didn't really protest them at that time. I am a widow, and I was going through a grieving process, but the issue is, this $3,200 on my house is excessive, and I protest it. Thank you.
Mary,
Yeah.
maybe after this meeting, you want, I can look over that, and I can explain how that works. County, people here take a lot of heat for taxes. This is where you can come in and verbalize your complaints and protest your objections. We're just one part. We collect all the money. But if you live in the city I want, city's pulling on you, cemetery's pulling on you, school district's pulling on you. Who else? The library's pulling on you. There's so many things down the line. A lot of those, I'm not ducking it, but we don't have anything to do with it. But the money flows through you. So I can explain to you on the county side, I can't tell you why your house is the one. He's real good, he answered all my questions. And I'd love to do that if he were with, but, okay, all right, anybody else?
Are you answering questions or just listening?
We would just be saying, you're for or against going over the revenue.
This could be a budget question, but it relates to the revenue neutral thing.
We're playing fast and loose here, so.
They're related. I really just have a question. I haven't seen the answer. My name is Laura Fortmeyer. I'm from Fairview. I haven't seen the answer in any of the newspaper articles. So really, I'm just looking for an explanation. In looking over the notice of the property tax increase in public hearing, there's nothing as significant, nowhere near as significant as the town portion. So on the average of my statements, it's a 25% increase. Okay? I'm just wondering where is that coming from? That's really my question. Is it, I've seen references to road and bridges and so forth. I'm just wondering, where is that coming
Thank you right now. Maybe all right, yeah.
So, my name's Scott Boyd with Roy, and I've done the Kansas budget for 42 years. This year I'm doing 6 counties, you being one of them. There's been a lot of comments made there. I might just cover it, I can't remember each person's name, but the RNR, which we're talking about right now, revenue neutral rate, is set by the legislature. It's not set by the people. So the RNR is set by law through the legislature, and they vote on that. Revenue neutral rate is how it works is tax dollars from last year that is used this year to be the starting point for revenue neutral. If your assessed value goes up, your mill levy goes down. Everybody understand that?
That don't work here. That don't work here.
I know that. If the value goes down, the mill levy goes up. Okay? So 122,000 of tax increase is because your assessed value dropped 3.4 million. So that's how the revenue neutral rate works. So to get the same dollars as last year, you have to come up with that 122,000 to get the same dollar because your assessed value went down. So before we have any increase in the mill levy, that's how that portion works. The other thing that gets asked all the time, and again, I can't remember, I should have written down the names, but the assessed value on property, like for houses, it's 11.5% of the fair market value. What's interesting is the jumps in the fair market value, not just here, but across the state of Kansas, is unbelievable, okay? So like I got a hearing at 11 on teams, with Lynn County, theirs went up 32 million in assessed value, and yours dropped 3.4 million. So they can get 1.2 million without raising any mill levy. See what I'm saying? Because the assessed value went up. And the reason theirs went up is they're right south of Kansas City. And a lot of people want rural living, so they drive to Lynn County. And they also have an energy plant that actually produces 60% of their assessed value. That's why it's so hard to compare county to county, because each one is so different. Okay, when I first started doing counties, on the northern, tier here, Marshall was the first one I had done about 5 years ago, when the county clerk took about $400,000. I was called in, nobody could do it. And I was really amazed by the assessed value of your farmland. I live in McPherson, I'm in person, and farmland here, I don't know what to go for, 10 to 20,000, probably an acre. Does that sound right? Here? Yeah. So in McPherson County, that's probably more like 5,000, 6,000 an acre. So there's just so many differences. I just wanted to address that because there's so many differences with that. Revenue neutral rate is a locked-in rate. You can't exceed it. That's what we're talking about right now. And so what's happened in your county, and I'm seeing this across not just yours, but a lot of counties. So if you go back, and I have a one-page sheet I showed the commissioners here. When I take over a county, I do a 7-year history study, receipts, expenditures, mill levy, and any of those key components. So from 2018, and I think that was mentioned earlier, someone said 2018. 2018 to 2024, the expenditures exceeded receipts. And at that point, the average mill levy per year to help generate that, you kept your mill levy the same, okay? Basically, but to generate that extra dollars was 1.42 mils average. But if you add all those up from 2018 to 2024, it's right at 10 mils. 10 mils that you have not raised in the last, since 2018. Now, what's interesting about that, that's not just yours, is it's like at home. So like if you say, I'm not gonna have a raise for 7 years in my job, what has inflation done in the last 7 years? It's about a 30 to 40, depending on where you live, 30 to 40% increase over the last 7 years. So when you lock the dollars and your expenditures for the normal things you buy, and that could be that's even employment. It's going up like this, but you've locked your dollars here at the same mill levy. Then what happens is, and this is happening all over, is cash burns up. So it's like at home. So let's say you say you're gonna make $4,000 for 7 years, but your expenses are $6,000 for 7 years for each year or month, per month, per year. What that does is you either use your savings or you use a credit card.
Or you quit spending.
Spending.
Right.
Not spending.
That's one thing that never gets mentioned until it's brought up by us.
I've been asked, I'm just pointing out where the numbers are at, okay? This isn't the first time this has come up. Then it's 42 years, in the 1990s, they had what called it. Okay, so like Osage County, which I've done since 1986, they voted 4 times, because in that one, you could actually put a protest petition against if you want to go above the tax lid, and they did it, you could do a protest petition and bring it to vote. So 4 years in a row at Osage County, they voted against a tax levy increase, and the tax, exceeding the tax levy. So it's not just something new. RNR is just a different way of working through that. And I totally understand your experience.
If that formula you're giving is right, that as the assessed value goes up, the revenue value, the mill levy goes down. Is that correct? Who here has ever had their assessment be lower than it was the year before? Not a single person. Mine's quadrupled in the last 4 years.
Because of what's happened is, okay. I don't want to get too far off track here, but what has happened is we're doing this to ourselves, and I'll give you an example, okay? So in McPherson County, which is a fairly, they do well, but their housing, and I don't know, I'd asked some people around here, because I was curious about, what's houses selling, okay? So one of my employees' sister, who they're from McPherson County, came back to work there, and she wanted to buy a house at listed price, okay? What ended up happening is, before she could make that purchase, some guy came in and made an 80,000 above the price purchase, okay? So this is happening all over the state of Kansas, and that's the problem. You can keep the mill levy flat, but when the assessed value, now yours dropped, now I'm not sure why, I haven't really, was it ag land, I guess, yeah. The ag land dropped, yours dropped, but many across the state have increased because of just what I described. It's a moving, it's really, each county is different, I described that. I don't know, anyway, that's where this, and I'm throwing, so what's happened is, at the end of 24, your general fund had $103,000 left. And in 2018, it had 1.5 million. So some of that's inflation. I understand some of it maybe could have been, cut expenditures. I mean, that's all up for debate. That's what's happening. And so at the end of 25, in the middle column, if you look at the budget and get a detailed look at the budget general fund, I think it's 22,000. It will be down to at the end of 25. This will be a tough year, and that's why they're looking at different options. That explains.
Can I ask my question again? I understand, thank you for your background, and I understand the playoff of mill levy and valuation and stuff. So there's still a 25% increase in the budget. Please, so how much of that is making up for, I guess, cash reserves that have been spent, savings, every year? And how much is like expense increases that you needed to budget in? Just really wondering where the increase is coming from. If it's a little bit of everything, say that. If it's a lot of road and bridge, say that. If it's a.
Yes.
Does my question make sense?
Yeah, I got you. So I've got 25 of these sheets up there, so you can have one if you want one, I guess. Shows this. Now I'm old school a little bit here. I grew up, my dad was a banker for 6 years, and I grew up in the poorest county in the state of Kansas, Chautauqua County. I don't know if you know where that's at, Stan. It's a very poor county. Their assessed value is 22 million, and yours is 229 million. So I grew up in a very poor county. Yes, my dad was a banker. But what's interesting, he said, when you leave the college, you need to have 3 to 6 months in your savings. Now, they of you that a little older, you ever heard of that? 3 to 6 months. Okay, so a county can't go out and get a line of credit. Like, I'm a business, I can go and get a line of credit. Government can't do that. They can only get a bond issue, lease purchase, and no other warrants, which you don't want. So what I came up with about 20 years ago, just showing this, is I took the total expenditures of a fund. We'll just use one here as an example, and you can look at this sheet later, okay? The general fund in 24 had a total expenditures of 4,768,187, so right at 5 million. Divided by 12 is 397,349. So every month, the general fund, which has several departments in it, spends right at 400,000 a month, okay? For 6 months, that would mean you would have to have, for 6 months reserve, that would mean you'd have to have 2.3 million in your cash reserve in the general fund. You get the 6 months, okay? At the end of 24, we made a couple of adjustments, it's 142,000. So you're short, just in the general fund on that 3 to 6 months, of 2.2 million. Just having reserves to be able to make expenditures in the future. I know that may not resonate with some of you. That there's no set fund balance policy in the state of Kansas for governments. Some will do 20%, some will do, just a percentage. But to me, for these smaller governments, it's people understand 3 to 6 months. So if it was 3 months, let's take it there. Okay, let's say we don't need 6 months, 3 months. That would still be 1.1 million short of the 3 months of expenditure. Right now, at the end of the year, you had about 11 days.
But that's at funding everything we're funding.
So that's not the
Right
taxpayer's
now.
problem.
Yes. That's funding everything.
We're not.
I didn't want to interrupt each other. Bill, did you have something before?
Then actually, what you want.
Well, I see that the difference is $2 million from 24 to 25. So if you're saying that's the cash reserve we need, then that is all, it's 100%. The cash reserve you're looking for is 100% of the increase.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Yeah, because we're not gonna get, we only have, in the budget, we have 765,000 as ending cash in 2026.
So it's
It's still, it's,
30%. Thank you.
Yeah.
Still wondering what the other percent is in general. It's a little bit of everything, or it's a lot of one thing.
I'll give you generalities. In the county, it's somewhere around 55 to 60% of the total cost is employee benefits and people.
Right.
Exactly, you said it.
Okay. So school districts are almost 80 to 85%. Because they don't have roads, they don't have buildings, they don't have other types of expenditure. The county literally covers about everything. The cities make up their difference by utilities. Most of them have, water and sewer don't make a lot of money, but if you have electric or a gas fund in a city, that's what covers these shortages that are found in the revenue neutral rate. That also, that's kind of general.
Again, Chris Kroll from Fairview. I have to get going, so I just thought I'd come up. Hit on a couple of things. If, you said, which leads me into this one, that, personnel is raise expenses. So it would shut down 1 day a week. What percentage would that be? About 100% of the work week. How much money would that save us? Again, nobody likes to be cut. I don't care. My taxes in 18 were $1,338. In 24, they were $3,072. Now, if I withhold those taxes, Mr. Hill, how long do I have after withholding those taxes before any legal action started? If I withhold my taxes and don't pay them, how many years do I have before legal action and proceedings begin?
Depends, if it's abandoned, it's usually 3 years. For about 3.
3 years. Did everybody hear that? You have 3 years that you don't have to pay.
How much?
And I didn't pay last year, it cost me $170.
Chris, yeah, address that.
Okay.
I know you're passionate. I will focus your passion on this.
So I'm passionate because I work 100 hours a week and I'm on call 24/7, 365. And that house that would take me from me theoretically, if I don't pay those taxes. That's a house that only my children have. And pass down through generations. And I don't have the luxury of being able to do my budget with mill levies and school boards and being able to say, it's not me, it's them. If I did that, the bank would laugh me out of the room. That's all I have to say. Withhold your taxes. If you got questions, call me. Thanks for your time, guys.
By statute, and I'm not an attorney, and if the assessed value, and I believe this is true for Brown County, if it goes over 300,000 assessed value in delinquent taxes, they're supposed to have a tax roll within that year. And that's something that is being done more. I'm just stating what the.
Then why don't we?
I'm not an attorney, I don't.
I have one, buddy. You wanna come get it? You get it.
I'm with him.
I'm behind it.
All right, there are a lot of various sizes, yeah, understanding in general 3 years.
I am not from Iowa. And like most of these people, I live on fixed income. This state don't offer squat for the military. Raising taxes, I own mine. I own my vehicles, all but one. And I'm still paying taxes on it. Can you explain to me why? Why am I still paying taxes on it? I own them. They're paid for.
All right.
Why am I still paying taxes on it?
That's a fundamental question, we're not at that.
You're not, who is? I'm still paying property taxes on to this town. Why? There's other states that don't charge property taxes.
Just to interject, I'm a veteran too, retired veteran. That was a line item veto by the government last year. Representative.
Like I said, the state don't offer squat for this,
I agree, wholeheartedly agree. But it was proposed last year, Pat Crocker from Leavenworth tried to introduce a bill that cut your property tax to disabled veterans by 75%. It was line item vetoed by the House. And
I guess that's the next stop then. Thanks.
One other question.
Okay.
Mayor Ray, do the commissioners or whoever is in charge ever take the budget and look and see how much of that budget for, let's say, just county? And within the county, you have different other entities. Do you ever look and see exactly how the budget is working? Is it working? Is it even? Do we ever have any money left in that entity? Is there a way that we can cut something? Why is it over budget? Why are we who does that? Who analyzes that budget?
To the commissioner. Look at county. We do see other entities, either budgets and their financials.
Exceeding?
Well, do you mean like cemeteries and the library, something like that, or cemeteries?
Yeah, you have, how many things? Okay, so do they require more or less monies that are fixed in the budget? Do you do it by line item? Do you analyze it periodically?
As county commissioners, we're responsible for part of the budget you see, we set out and that's it. So the townships, there's other tax agencies in the county. When we see the numbers, we don't have anything.
But monitor, don't you question?
That's it. We see it.
But you don't question.
We don't, go ahead.
You're talking about their budget alone?
No.
Do they line?
The line item, okay, you have your county budget, and
Right.
that's all it's like.
Right.
But each one of those, within that budget, you have other entities, right? Like roads and bridge, right?
You know, the part.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
that's right. So, if do you see it on a monthly basis, 3 months, how's it working? I guess I'm looking for analytical,
It's an oversight. We see the departments in the month. We check, we see,
It tells us the percentage for every department that throughout the whole year we get.
okay, so someone is overseeing it, if there's an increase,
for that. To justify that.
Okay. Okay, we're still on the RNR part. Everybody else? Order minutes. So. A lot of this stuff is hoops we have to jump through. Everybody's involved with government somewhere. Of course, we gotta jump through a hoop. Now, someone said, and I don't remember who, but the commission last year, listen to people on RNR that they voted exceeded, and you might get mad at us. That's what's gonna happen here more than likely. I don't know that. But just because we vote to exceed RNR does not lock us in to exceed.
So how can we appeal our property taxes?
I didn't get one.
How can we appeal our property taxes if we don't agree with?
I need to appeal.
Yep.
You have to do it when you fail.
You can appeal the valuation.
The evaluation, that goes through the appraiser's office after the first of the year. You get a letter in the mail. I think it's like the 1st of March, and then you got 30 days. That's how you. Okay, so, like, when you really, that's fine, the RNO, you vote, if the commission here votes to exceed the RNO. That doesn't allow us in to exceed the RNO. But if we vote not to exceed the RNO, then obviously we won't exceed. Does that make sense? Okay, so what Mr. Lloyd explained to me, and I think I understand this. I mean, it's a lot, but you put us up there, and somebody said to you it's a hard job. We didn't know it was, I think any of these guys figured they do this just for the fun of it. Fun of it. You know, we did it voluntarily, so we're here about your way, so you don't have to do that. And, you know, bring it on. That's why we're here. We are here to represent people in Brown County, but we also are here to make decisions that we think are best. The unfortunate thing for everyone that's not there is that in this room right now, there are 3 people that are almost power or something like that. We're here to listen to what you have to say. We may not always do that. I hope, I just want to, education and information seems to use a lot of situations. It's very simply like up here with the veteran line item week. I didn't know that. But once I heard about it, and once you heard about it, it makes sense. That's information. And it's good for all. So the RNR part of this thing, there's no more further comment on this. We're going to move on. Is there any further? Yes, sir. Come on.
Hi, my name is Robert Weinreich. I'm fairly new to the community, retired military, so fixed income also. I wanted a small country life, so retired out here. It's nice, but if year after year is going to be this way, I can't see myself staying in this community. 1 year increase, 55%, almost 20%, 47%, 31%, 15%. 23%. The post thing is telling me that the percentage of year over year, it's not sustainable. Did you guys look to cut the budget before you looked to increase our taxes? Did you guys?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We made cuts on some homes, but that's it.
I just can't bring that up. Yeah, just had to say something.
Thank you. We got anything else? Anybody out there? We're here.
I have something.
Oh, all right.
My name is Chris Evans. So we didn't make any cuts from last year at all? Because I know last year we talked about having a full employment year. We weren't going to get any full-time people. I know that hasn't happened. Because employment was our biggest funding, was our biggest tax on us. How many full-time employees do we still have?
The county. Do we know? 92. Last year it was 68. So,
No, they're not, that's, so there's 6 full-time, part-time. We remember that.
well, last year there were 68 employees and 50 of them were full-time. That's what we were told last year. Okay.
The county clerk have that information.
I can't do it. I'm not on the network right now. I'm breaking insurance. Sixty-eight people are small source of insurance. Sheriff's Department. You can find. You
Can't confirm.
That's all I want to do.
You got it. I didn't have any idea.
They were one thing. I want to get up there, so you can hear me. You know, I realize that there's a cost of living raise for everybody, everybody's getting into grocery stores. I mean, I went from buying name brand stuff to generic stuff, to that kind of stuff, just to kind of keep my costs down. You know, and I can see the government having to, they have a budget for this, the county and the city, this whole budget. But to increase it from 2,600 is mine to 32, that's a $600 increase. Now, if we left it at the neutral, that's only 200, and that's easier to swallow than jumping right into a big 132 or 139 mill levy. So that's my thought for myself only, that I can swallow a $200 increase rather than a $600 increase. And as budgets go, you would think that you would do it a little bit at a time so it don't hit so hard. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Issue for
I was trying to count, and you'll forgive me here, but, so, at our payroll, we see all this stuff. But some of the departments, we have no control, but they're considered an employee. So if you had a number from last year, and that number was 68, is that right? And that's full-time employees?
There's 50 full-time employees, 68 employees total.
How many total?
68 total.
68.
And we were told that they were probably going to do a hybrid freeze on.
So what I'm curious about is like 68, when I said that 92, you know, that's a lot bigger number. Maybe when they said 68 last year, we weren't counting these.
No, we got it from the clerk. She gave us those numbers.
Okay. Well, I just wanted. Okay, is there anything else that comes before us here before we do the RNR?
We have 72 full-time and we have 5 part-timers. 72 full-time. As of 15.
We didn't hire 22 people. I know that.
We only hired two. I know we hired two full times. We were told we were gonna hire full time. This would be part time.
I don't remember ever saying last year we was gonna have a free from 40, but higher. Don't remember that being said ever.
Was it considered?
Never in place.
Everything else. I look at the cluster, because I'm sorry, I didn't try to answer. We got it, and we hired them. Or, we could. Hired, and yeah, it wasn't added, and we lost, we replaced, so I just, where we hired two.
More employees.
All right. Okay, now, let's get back to Mr. Rickles. So, is there any other public comment? I think I asked it 3 times. Then to the other commissioners here, is there any discussion concerning the revenue neutral rate? All right. May I have a motion?
I move they adopt the resolution to levy the property tax rate to exceed the revenue rate.
Resolution of the county, this is resolution 2025-17. Resolution of County of Brown, Kansas, levy of property tax, exceeding revenue neutral. Whereas, the revenue neutral rate for County of Brown was calculated as 36.174 millions by Brown County Code. And whereas, the budget proposed by the governor's body, County of Brown to require levy of property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate. And whereas, the governing body held a hearing on August 25th, 2025, allowing all interested taxpayers salary to carry the opportunity to be full testimony. Whereas the governing body of the County of Brown and her testimony applies to this exceed the revenue for it. Now therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the County of Brown shall levy a property tax rate exceed the revenue neutral rate of 36.174. This resolution shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its adoption, shall be in effect actions taken by the governing body. All right, so it's been moved. And Mr. Lincoln. Is there a second? Okay, I'll second that. Been moved and seconded. And we will call for approval to adopt resolution 2025-17, the levy of property tax rate exceeding the revenue. This is a roll call vote. So each commissioner will always vote here. So, first of all, call myself, Lucas Hyman, chairman. I'm a second to be Richard Baker. Okay, and third would be William Paul.
To me, I've always proved to see that pass. Because for inflation, I think things will always go up. For this year, the way things are, and we have almost rephrase on income's not that great. I understand that we're behind to reserve. But I don't think this is, somebody said that you're catch up too much. So I don't know.
Okay, the motion passes from 2 to 1. Next, move on to the budget part of this hearing. And this is the same sort of format when we get to. Okay. I gotta find it, and then this concludes the hearing on revenue neutral. Next, we will have the county budget hearing. The purpose of this hearing is for us to listen and answer objections to taxpayers relating to the proposed 2026 budget. This hearing will not be open for comments. Are there any comments concerning the published 2026 budget? State your name.
My name is Annette Hoskins. As you can see, I've got reams of paper here. The details of things to argue over. But my prayer of giving me the words to say was answered early this morning by just saying this. Before asking the taxpayers for another dollar, I would ask each of you, have you exhausted all cost-saving opportunities? Have you seriously considered and evaluated redundant or non-essential expenses, personnel and personnel expenses, i.e. benefits? Have you developed a long-term debt reduction strategy? I've been coming to peacefully protest at these budget hearings the last 4 years or so. County employees and benefits are the county's biggest expenses. I'm tired of having to fight against my taxpayer dollars going to reward government employees with more and more, with Cadillac plans and benefits, when we, the people paying for those rewards, don't have the same benefits. Why is government so much more important? We just said 72 employees. When you talk about that $4,000 benefit for every employee's health deductible for their plan, the county budgets for, that's well over $250,000 right there, just for the deductible for everybody's health plan, when you budget to pay $4,000. I'm tired of being forced with our taxes to fund programs and organizations that were never meant to be government's responsibility, just to keep them afloat. I'm tired of fighting against wholly subsidizing a for-profit private business with my taxpayer dollars that we can't question, all in the name of service. I'm tired of fighting against funding and economic, or funding, excuse me. I'm tired of fighting against funding an economic development organization that hasn't shown how they've relieved my tax burden in any way, shape, or form. I'm tired of fighting against funding, getting searched every time I enter the people's courthouse, we the people's courthouse, and also having my Second Amendment rights infringed upon. I'm tired of fighting against my home being ridiculously inflated in value by 65% in the last 2 years, and yet still being forced to pay a higher mill levy in taxes. I really could go on and on, but bottom line is no matter whether we're talking about the property assessments or the benefits, if taxes are going to raise, it's a budget problem. We have a spending problem. Raising taxes isn't leadership, it's the path of least resistance. Brown County residents and businesses have met their threshold of property tax increases. We are tapped out. And as I've said before, that's not to mention forcing seniors out of their homes and killing the American dream for our young people. Government's job is to protect our rights and create an environment where we're able to prosper and take care of those in need and fund programs or organizations where we see fit. Government was instituted for roads and maintenance and public safety, and that's pretty much it. From the Declaration of Independence, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the government. Every dollar government gives was taken from someone else. It constitutes stealing, favoritism, picking and choosing winners, and quite simply socialism. Property taxes are the most tyrannical form of government. You don't have my consent anymore. Spending cuts are the only answer. And as Mr. Sanderson said, at what point do these increases need to be put to a vote of the people? Thank you. I appreciate all three of you.
Anybody else?
I'm Brian Hoskins, and my wife's on. I've trucked legally for 44 years. I've trucked illegally for 4 times. You can take that how you want to do it. I have busted my ass, my family, my country. I've been shot at, shot, stabbed, run every back alley in New York City, shot one delivery gas. It doesn't matter. But I have 2 friends. John, which is sheriff, and Mr. Good, I think we're well. And there will be your work or welcome to my fire anytime. But I cannot afford to pay $700,000 for an ambulance. And possibly without losing my morals or whatever, he needs to see that people in this county really struggle. And if we got an ambulance service, I think he could help us out a lot. We're going down such a slippery slope. And like I said earlier, the state constitution there is no limit to what you guys, not you guys would pay taxpayers. I look. But I speak 2 languages, truck driver and American. So truck driver slips out, please forgive me. But our assessments have been so terrible. You know, it's just horrible, some of the things we're doing. And our young people that want to buy a house, they're not way in house. No way in. They can afford to buy a house. It is impossible. For one thing, their taxes and insurance will be $1,000 a month. They buy a decent house. If you want to, you just can't. But right now, I know I'm jumping all over the place here. I got all this wrote down, but I can't say what I really want to say. I'll be throwing out here. Whatever. But as far as the county budget, you know, and there's one thing that I do understand on roads and bridges. You know, 7 million miles, I pass over people. So what is the cost of between chip and seal and asphalt per mile?
Chip and seal, 25,000 a mile.
Right. That's me. Asphalt me.
You said $1
million. I mean, it's really work.
2-inch overlay.
No, 2-inch overlay, nothing but. They can pay.
I know. That's what most counties do, is 2-inch overlay.
Okay.
If they do it.
Okay, but if you go out to the western states, the United States, which I've been in. So anyway, but they'll build a brand new interstate in Nevada, Utah, brand new. And they chip and seal that thing with 3/4 inch rock. It saves gas. The roads last a long time. All they gotta do is peel that and lure back down. You know, the chaff we put on the roads, are, you know, and I'm very thankful for our chip and seal roads, don't get me wrong. But that chaff will not hold weight. It is impossible. You cannot get a pebble to hold weight. And every farmer has semis anymore. And you know, I'm not a road engineer. But you know, with raw, you know, gravel road will hold more than chip and seal. But if you would go, our chip and seal roads are probably rated at 35,000 pounds. My guess, they're close to it. What they'll say for the whole, probably maybe 40 pounds. Okay, over the last 47 years, I bet I can count the loads that I've taken home. Both of them. Okay, always go home with me. Always try to go home. I don't want to tear bridges. I don't want to tear nothing. Because I'm kind of proud of where we did. But you guys were wanting ideas about roads. Okay. And I don't, you cannot take, every time a load goes to Atchison from Robinson, Kansas, how do you think they go? A commercial truck, not a farmer bringing his stuff from the field to the elevator. But how do you think they go? Well, they go down Sunflower Road, 847,000 miles an hour. Okay, well, they need to give back, the co-op pays the shortest route. You know, whatever it is, but they need to pay the shortest route, get to the, that's a highway. And then they have to go down. You cannot expect our roads to handle that kind of weight, those kind of speeds for commercial traffic. You know, if a farmer is going from Bend, the farm to Bend, whatever, if I'm coming from the highway to the house, I get it, I gotta travel home, I get it. But I'm not doing it commercial. I am not gonna make a dollar zipping down these county roads. And I hope I'm not making anybody mad, but I'm telling you, you've got to get to these co-ops and say, we're going to pay the rate to get from the elevator to the highway, and you're going to find a short track. Because they're going to have to pay more money to get that freight moved that way to keep them off our county roads. Because 80,000 pounds, you know, spread out over all the tires is actually less weight, more power. But but the speed, you know, I mean, it's terrible. The county road is terrible. All you gotta do is drive up on that white road, put it sideways, take time. So, but we really need to look at that. We need to keep the county. And as much as I hate this, because I hate to put, I don't know what the word is, infringements on my local truck drivers, because, you know, we're pretty close to them. That they really need, commercial trucks need to stay off our county roads if they're doing commercial business, if that makes sense. And as far as that goes, but what about the bridges we replace? Or is it going to be cheaper to use prefab bridges than to build bridges? Because, you know, I used to do a lot of stuff between Kansas City and St. Louis. And they replaced every bridge that went over I-70. 1 month. It took a whole month to replace 4-lane bridge. It was done. I mean, start to finish. They work 24 hours a day. This is not a time and material job. It's a 24-hour day job. They get it done. It's done. I mean, what's the worst? Shut down the road, flipping year. You know, it's just you can't get ambulances down, you can't get police cars down, you can't do anything. But our county roads, you know, make it so much better for Mr. John to do whatever we gotta do. Don't have to worry about losing on the gravel road. You know, they do a great job plowing in the winter time. I can't say enough about certain things about what you guys do for us. And but but as far as if you continue to chip and seal roads or off them, I mean, I know it's kind of, you know, other things that from a business sense, would it not be cheaper to buy or and you grab or whatever it is, and you can go off to other counties, whatever. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, you can do it. I mean, I realize you can't. It's got to be a business. This county's got to be run like somewhat of a business. But as a business owner, I cannot afford much more. And I know you guys are all taxpayers, and I've said that before. And I get it. And I know Mr. John, he's got to do this. And this is another thing about, I don't know what it costs to keep the guy downstairs. But it's to really piss me off. That is one thing that I really hate. Is to come into my house and gotta check all my stuff. I carry 4 pocket knives all the time. One for my dad, my grandpa, I mean, I can just go on, they bring me good luck. All right, but the thing that they don't make me check go to my credit card. And I think I brought this up in the Second Amendment deal over here with Mr. Gill. I can do more damage for the credit card for human being than I ever think. It's, if you are going to do this stuff to us, we have to do, we call it jury duty. They should have 30, 40 people that volunteer if they want to have security up here. Which and I gotta admit, this is kind of neat, I've never been on courthouse or got convicted or get convicted, whatever. But if our judges and attorneys are so scared for their life, they need to care. Or they need to come with me all gas and know them in Kansas City, Missouri. I can get shot. That's not a if, it is a issue. It's not fun. So, especially when you all have a terror, shit blows up. So, I'm not taking out me, I'm taking out all the time. So, but I've said all I can say without
Oh, you've done well.
I really like to use some really good
I
words.
heard you almost say the word.
Well, but that was the other thing, I didn't have any, run a business. I get no help from the state, I get no help from the county, I get no help from the federal. Nothing. I am a per profit hire carrier. You know, but the thing of it is, Duke really helped me out here a couple of years ago. And, you know, everybody wants to gripe on Duke or whatever, but they're not griping on Duke. He is an amazing man. And Sheriff John is an amazing person. And you can't, if I could get that kind of money to help me truck every year, I wouldn't be trucking. I'd be unfit. You know, I mean, it's just, but I can't generate enough money. I can't work enough hours. I can't run enough miles. I can't do anything. That is, eventually, this is gonna come down to a bad thing. And I hope it's not my lifetime. But I guarantee you, young people cannot afford the taxes in this state. And as much as I love this state, I wish I'd stayed in Arkansas. Because the property taxes stay the same as when you buy something. And elderly people, they're on fixed income. My gosh, you need to cap there. I mean, I know you guys can't do it, but the state has got to do something to help these people and the veterans, and they've got to do. And I'm not picking and choosing. I'm just doing the right thing.
Brian, you've done very well.
I didn't say any F words or anything.
I'm out of here. On 3/4 versus inch, we can look into that. I mean, that's what they are, these 1/2 inch on the roofs. You're saying a 1/2 inch drop, the aggregate's too small against crash. Okay, the commercial truck traffic sign, there's actually a resolution that is in effect right now that regulates that, but it has to be enforced. Part of the reason it wasn't enforced is because a lot of the signs are gone. So the county crews have been replacing the signs. So, I mean, we're kind of on the same wavelength.
But the thing of it is, and I don't want these guys trolling our neighborhood, but if you catch a commercial vehicle doing commercial things on a county road, I mean, like you live all the way to White Cloud or whatever, you know, you have to go Highway 7 or whatever. But if you come from there all the way down through the county roads, get to Atchison, and they catch it, the co-op needs to get a fine, farmer needs to get the fine, everybody gets a fine on that. Texas do, if you get an overload in Texas, not only do you get one, the people that load it, they get a fine also.
So, okay, all right, well, that's duly noted and we'll talk, but later, okay, so yeah, that's, we kind of got, and that's fine, I mean, the purpose here is not to shut down conversation, but in the essence of, well, is there anybody else that has anything else to like to say? Come on.
Again, I'm really showing. Again, I believe that. I have a couple of business. Roughly, when I said earlier, we're getting about 2,770 kids. You divide that by 4, which we have a American family, we're getting about 212. I know that we lost a lot of houses out, okay, we lost a lot of houses in the dead. The school is down about 400 kids. This all affects our budgets. But as a business owner, if I have less customers, it's a double down if I raise prices to try to gain that back. Because I have to stay competitive. That the advantage of being a government, but I don't have to stay competitive. But in the long run, we're gonna lose more things. We're gonna lose more people. The more we lose, the higher it's gonna get. The higher it gets, the lower it goes. It's a snowball effect. And we'll combine with departments, something. I'm just gonna bring up something as a business person, I don't meet with any of you individually, you know, the business owner, how do you cut costs? With the modernization of computers and stuff, it does make you wonder, that's supposed to make our society more efficient. Why do we need more employees? And it's not just the county, the city's doing it too. You know, and I don't see that we're getting, I remember what the city employees used to do. Now we have more city employees, I'm not just picking on that, but we seem to be doing a little less, we don't make the strike, we don't charge the, cracks in the roads, which all has an effect on how fast the road is. Accountability. Do you hold the heads of these departments accountable? You know, I've watched people, I dig sewers, I dig water lines. The city comes out, you know, and like, I'm not picking on anybody, but it takes me 3 or 4 trips to go get the right fitting for the plumber, put all the deal. You're sitting there going, can we make this more efficient? Can we move those deals on the city truck, on the county truck, so all the stuff is kind of there? I mean, that's what a person with private enterprise does. He tries to make sure that there's no having 3 or 4 trips. Another thing, we do have a farm south of town. I don't know why. Nobody ever lived on that road. As far as I know, nobody has had a drive. They drive it. Convenient for us, probably. Did I need it? I'm 65 years old. I didn't remember that road being gravel for my life. And nobody lives it. You know, these are the things I don't understand. You know, why was it gravel? 64 years. It was never gravel. Kids rode up and down, got ruts, shouldn't have. I was really doing that like every time. Didn't want my dad to find it out. But you know, these are things that are expensive, that maybe they won't be cut. Because once you gravel it, what do you do? Now you gotta keep graveling. I don't know, these are just some things to think about. And like I said, I'm more willing to sit down as a business owner. Don't go through some things. Anyhow. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Brady Hoskins, Robinson, Kansas. And I don't have the budget figures in front of me, so I can't, attack anything specific. But the fact the county employees get $4,000 per deductible is asinine. I gotta pay my shit out of pocket. Why can't they? Just because they work for the government. All government does is steal money, make people entitled. All government does.
and it exists to protect itself. Dexter doesn't, well, the gentleman left. If Dexter doesn't do anything to protect him, to answer his question, property taxes is nothing more than paying the government permission to use your own house under threat of removal or sale. And especially veterans, you know, I know you guys don't have anything to do with this, but you know, 500 billion to Ukraine, however many billion to Israel. If you're gonna spend that money, it needs to be spent on the veterans who, you know, they give everything, they watch their brothers do everything. And I know you guys don't have anything to do with that, I just wanted to clear that up. You know, I don't know what the standard work week is for government employees, but I'm guessing it's around 40 hours. Working normally, you know, that's by Wednesday morning. We get busy, I do that by early, mid-afternoon on Tuesday. You know, these people that get just incredible sums of money just because they work for the government, you know, what was the figure? You could save $250,000 right off the bat by getting rid of that. Start there instead of raising property taxes. You know, I don't own property, I'm an aspiring property owner. Why would I want to subject myself to being penalized when I work so hard? And I'm trying to keep my language nice, but struggle. You can't keep raising taxes to try and prosper. Ends up being the exact opposite. There's got to be other ways to do this. Thank you.
Well, I had one other thing to say, and I know it's maybe good, but we pay an entity close to $50,000 to Brown County to bring business to Brown County. What have they done to really help us? What have they done to lower our taxes, property taxes? I know they've got a couple of businesses in town. You know, to bring our taxes really down, we need it. So why don't we go after some industry instead of, you know, they didn't come to me, you know, help me start some of that, I refused it. I didn't take any COVID money, I could have got a lot of COVID money. Cause why do I want to make people pay me, you know, why I want to take out of their taxes, so I can get a little extra cash. You know, if things were bad, I didn't know what was gonna happen. I was kind of scared of what things were gonna do. You know, we're still not allowed to use restaurant at places where we pick up or deliver. You know, just some of the stupid things. So I get a small business loan. You know, and so I don't have to take any tax credit for it. And I just want to bring it up. I can't. There is so much stuff that you guys have got to look through. It's just amazing. This fellow back here got it just boom. I mean, he's made never made it for my life. I mean, pretty happy to. So I'm just thinking, you guys got a terrible job. It's worshipful. It's thankless. And the county employees, you know, it's a thankless job. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do, and we gotta do what we gotta do. And hopefully there's something in the middle, somewhere where we can all work together. And I will always support the Lord's house. supposed to give Caesar his money, right? You know, Craig was supposed to give Caesar what's Caesar's. And he took Temple Lord, where, can't remember what that was. Caesar ain't getting more money. I do not see. Until we can get it. Find out where everybody can live. This poor lady here, I feel terrible. My mom and dad were in the same place. We didn't have enough. So, the veterans, to give their life. Come back early, proud of them. You know, I can remember when Vietnam War, and this kind of stood out, was like, it's got to talk. But I'm just gonna say, the veterans of this nation. In Silent Springs, Arkansas, I went to a football game, we finally had enough money to go to a football. And I think it was in 1969. Just about all of our seniors and all of our juniors were gone, just where they were, Vietnam. You know, when they got back, nobody was there. So, I just wanna thank all these people. Give me the opportunity to speak to. And here we got, I get it. There's a cousin in. I get a bitch. I get on you, and you, my friend. And it's. But I just want to say thank you. And I'm gonna get out of here before I really say something real stupid. So anyway.
Doing fine, we appreciate it, we understand the motion. You've got some good ideas, or got another lady coming up this.
Curious, what solutions have you thrown around to lower the taxes? Have you had any solutions like sales tax, gas? I know we talked about some of that stuff last year. Putting a tax on gas to lower our taxes. On fuel, yeah. I mean, that's something.
County has farmers. More or less, do that.
That's because everybody pays tax, the renters pay tax. Right now, we're all property. That way it's fair, because everybody uses.
There is a lot of talk, I would count, there's got talk, they're getting 1%, they're gonna increase their sales tax 1%. Now that gets pushed back by carpenters or people that have more pushback on business. But that 1% is a big number, and I don't know if you don't have any, I don't think it's part of my knowledge that you have over above the regular county sales tax. What some do is that's how they fund the road bridge or their streets, really cities more than we do in counties. And then another thing I just heard the other day, this is kind of unique, I guess other states have this, Kansas doesn't have this, but like, however, a lot of people work in McPherson County, but they live in Marion County. So what like St. Louis, I guess some of the cities and states back east, they will pay, we pay tax based on, you pay to the county where you work, not to there because you're there. So I don't know if that's a workable or not. There's just so many things they're throwing around to take care of. Sales tax, I thought about this driving up, it took me about 3 hours to get here. From Fairview to here, there's a lot of sales tax opportunities. And so what you look at, and you don't really have probably the tourist side as much, but like McPherson and Pratt, some of those, they have the tourism tax also, like on the hotels. So the people that come here, whether they're spending money for sales tax items, or they're actually staying in your hotels. There is other models. You can't look at each county and city and see what they have going on to be able to do that. Those are definitely things we can talk about.
Thank you.
I apologize for coming up here twice, kind of winging it, and remember what I wanted to say. You see a lot more of the older generation, older people returning to the workforce. And a lot of that is for the very reason, their taxes going up. And they can't afford to stay fully retired. And if that is not the definition of theft, I don't know what is. Taxation is theft and inflation is too.
I worked in Kansas City for a while. That's one thing they did, if you didn't live in Kansas City, they collected it on that time, back in the eighties. They collected an hourly deal on everything. Yes, yeah, what Andrew said. The only thing I would caution people about, it seems like we're at this spending level, and we start talking about collecting more back than we find more. We need to find ways, and I don't know what allowed the government, really talking to department heads, if they been cut some out of the department, if they can give bonuses. But, some of the employees, they come up with a great idea how to cut. If you're out there working, possibility, you can see something we can do better, more efficient. And we're not talking about cutting, yes. I guess some things we are going to start talking about cutting to the public. There are certain things, the businesses, churches, family, that should stand up and help them. And I can't remember the president said it one time, I think we wrote about it in the hurricane. When they came and talked to me and said, well, we need government help. They said, no, and here's why. As soon as the government does it, friends, families, and communities will quit help. And that's kind of where we're at today. I do believe in the Lord. He does tell me to pay my taxes, so I don't agree with not paying it, because what's gonna happen when we don't pay? Some of the elderly and some of the stuff, I am blessed enough I can pay my taxes on that. The ones I'm up here fighting for, we have about 8 or 9 or 10 levels. We've been able to hold it so far, because we talk to them every year. We have went up about 10% in the last 8 to 9 years. But this is going to get hard enough this year. We're probably gonna have to go up, and a lot of these people don't fix anything. So I want you to think about that. If you do go above revenue neutral, do you have to take it forward? I don't know, these are things, can you?
So I can speak to that. So just because they went on revenue neutral with that, notice, that evidence may stay there. So the statute says that you, can go down, but you can't go up. So that's why a lot of these governments, it takes a lot to figure out, like your cuts you're talking about and all that. So this gives them a little more time to figure that out. And you can go down, you just can't go up. So that's what happened last year, I believe. I think there was a very good size mill levy, and they went through. What they ended up doing is using up cash. That's why, just like at home, I mean, it's no different from use your savings. But you're right, there's cuts, and I'll just say one last thing, and it really doesn't, you're asking about, how do we get this assessed value and fair market value? Well, some of you probably lived in the 80s, I don't know how old, I'm older probably than some of you, but we almost lost our bank. We were cease and desist, one step from closure, the other bank in Sudan closed, never reopened. And many people lost their farms, that they had homesteaded from their grandpas. And what you see in government, I've been this long enough, you see these cycles. And we're in a really, I'm not trying to be, the sky is falling, but we're in a really dangerous cycle right now because the farm, like land values and houses and all that. So there's always a correction. And you try to run the government the best you can, and you don't want to increase it more, but at some point, that's scary. It's going to be probably one of those 1985 adjustments. And that's part of that's you learn from history. I don't really have anything else to add. That's more personal thing.
Yes, and you're right, we're supposed to, where we go. But that is one of the problems we're having, just like this gal's on. It's not the higher end homes. Right now, it's the medium to lower that the value of those houses, and it's not the county's fault, but the city told them 57 houses that could have been picked up for small, smaller building new. And so that makes people's houses like hers go way up. And that's the 80 to 240 houses are the ones that are given because somebody moved here from California, Colorado, back east. They have the top of the money and they're willing to pay that. That's right. Something, boom, and that makes the appraiser go up.
Here's. He's got another hearing at 11 o'clock. After this.
It's 25 minutes of paper and I'll pass it out. I think it's good for people, other people's.
Yeah, here's the one I have, I think you have, there's some others up there too, okay? And those things that I put on there are just learning experience for the 42 years, they're not maybe all the answers, they're just ways to try to understand it.
I have just, another question, it's very big, the properties that people have not paid their taxes and the government comes in or comes in and tears it down, that property sets and is it available to purchase if they have to pay taxes on it? Never been paid. So in other words, a person hasn't paid their tax, so it gets taken away. Maybe the house has not been fixed, so they demolish it. Who pays the taxes on that property sitting there waiting? Does it get resold? Nobody. So the property just sits there and nobody's paying any kind of tax on it at all. Is that a possibility of just reselling that property to, okay? But you know, people aren't aware of it because I've gone by and I'm saying, what's going on with that property? It's for sale. Because person can turn around and those that are householders, such as Mr. Schilling, he does that kind of stuff. He could buy that property, pay the taxes on that property and sell something that's built on there. Who controls that? The city or Brown or county? Is it a tax sale? Is it a vacant piece of property? And how often does that happen? Yeah.
Was the process. In process. As a board,
Right.
in process. Lessons. It's really saying to kind of things.
Because I see a lot of vacant land out there. So if we just get caught up on all that vacant land and sold it or became auction, somebody would have to create that revenue. I mean, we would create the revenue, so it goes right back into. There is.
Again, we're working on.
Yeah, but just one at a time, maybe one every 2-3 years, that's all I see.
Every 2 years is, we're going to be discussed with it's not free.
Yeah.
But to get something done on 14.
Yeah, because I know there's at least 5 that I know of that are, anyway, but that would create some revenue for all of us, but we won't see this big item. No, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll give a line idea from how we could cut. Is there anything else, sorry, that you would like us to that we don't about? I mean, other than what I said.
Being in addition, what the new.
So
taken away from our county now. What is the do for your family? Would you like to see what, that's what it's like out or? I don't know. I don't think there's anything really you can. I mean, you said a lot of things that we thought were, but.
So the budget we came up with, both, essentially is a net zero. All right, road bridge, we were set up to say everything we had planned, they're still spending their cash. Now, the general fund will be increased, offset that. I'm sorry. The budget we have proposed still reflects a net zero. All right, the road and bridge, even if I don't really try to questions ask me, I'll try to restart. Road and bridge is still spending in their cash for next year to do their project. But the general fund will be built up by about $3,700,000 to offset that. So we're going to see that maintains the level of service in the county really as is. We did make some small, and they are, they're small cuts in proposed budget increases. But to my knowledge, we made no drastic, I mean, you won't know anything different about Brown County Life next year than you will this year. So, that's just something I wanted. So if what Mr. Pollock says is right, you know, we're looking for ideas, and we've discussed a lot. The big money we can save, and we can save money in employee benefits and staff. We can, really can, and we should. Okay, so I can take $250,000. We can find that somewhere. That's one deal. A little bit. We're asking for 9 of them, so we're down to 8. All right, so then I gotta go somewhere else. Where do I go? I go road and bridge, and that's where the money spent. We've got $4 million line item. We can save significant money there by not gypsying. We could, I mean, it's skip it for an entire good. That's a bold move. I'm not a road engineer. Everybody I've talked to said you probably don't want to do that. But if you feel like we don't have the money, that's the way we feel. We could do it. We could address problem areas. We could still work on some of the roughest parts. None of it. So we skip a year, maybe we save $1 million by not doing it. And then we're building the cash. But are we taking a short-term savings for a long-term cost? I mean, that's how they do it. And then you can want to.
I just want to ask, have you put the numbers to consolidation of the 3 districts for road and bridge?
Okay, so
Well, that saved us anyway.
have we put numbers to it? I mean, the answer is no. I mean, numbers, but we are about it. I mean, we're trying.
I can save much money.
Will it save us money? I mean, the answer, if I said no, that'd be pretty stupid. Why would we try it? It'll save us some money, but what we're hoping for is, everybody looks for efficiency gains. If you run business, you're trying to do more with less. We're trying to get more out of our equipment, labor, and dollars, and on material for roads and bridges. And there's some organizational challenges with this thing set up. There's 3 districts, to answer the 3 different commissioners. We got to come together. We can't talk to each other outside of an open meeting.
You have 3 foremen?
There's 3 foremen. There's a lot of them. So we're looking for ways, can we make that better? I mean, as you go to work, having 3 different bosses, and then every 4 years, your boss might or may not be fine. That's kind of how it works. What the commission can do. So again, it's a politician answer, but we're looking into. We met with a guy here in town, got a lot of history with labor, worked a lot of union labor out of California, had 350 people, 400 people working for him. He's got some ideas. I think they're great. He's willing to share it, and I mean, we're open to that too. Some other budget. Again, we're trying to budget to bring the same level of service. And if that's too much, service, if the county's going over and above, well, that's fine. I mean, I haven't heard anybody say, I know there's a lot of people good things to say about running the county. Most bridges actually usually find out get some of them have conditioning, but they're not running half. That's where the lion's share of our budget goes. Next big chunk is lawn. a chunk of money goes to law enforcement to pay salaries and all the equipment costs to pay for the jail. So law enforcement is they're employed where they sort of need to be to maintain 24/7 law enforcement in Brown County. I mean, so I guess personally, I don't think that, I'm not saying we should look for efficiency, look for ways to spend less money, but I mean, I don't want to take law enforcement to the chopping block, and I don't know anybody else to do it. So if we look past, we want roads and bridges, we want law enforcement, and we acknowledge we can make some staffing, we can make some staffing changes, but they seem, and I don't mean to belittle this, $250,000, I mean, we have to do that. We have to find $2 billion, 250,000 is a good place to start. But we have to find $2 billion to keep this thing revenue neutral. That's the goal, keep it exactly the same money this year as we did last year. And if we won't cut law enforcement, we don't really want to cut roads and bridges, you know, where do we go? We cut a little bit on employment, we can work on benefits, but if we trim this thing too far, then, then what happens? Then I guess maybe we need to find out, does the county workforce revolt disappear? I don't know, man, are we willing to live in a county where, certain things we can vote for, that's certain. Others, you may not like that. So we're trying to find a balance here, and we all understand, I think Richard said something about his property. So your taxes from 2018 to 2024 tripled, but your insurance, went up 2.5 times. So we all know this problem is real, we all live it every day. And I think, we really honestly, we are trying our best to do this in a way that is. This didn't happen just overnight. This happened over 7 years. Previous commissions did their best, to spend as little money as possible, and not raise taxes. They did their best, and what happens is they just burn through their savings. Commission, they're just for money. And if we don't adjust our spending down or increase, we're just up like 3 months in, we're in the red, maybe months. I could be wrong, but I think the room is, I think you're looking for cuts. You're looking for cuts. But maybe the tax increase, maybe I'm not way out of line, thinking we need more revenue. And if I am, then I'm reading you wrong. But if our tax by the 40 people increase, say, you're gonna do exactly the same thing. We're not giving you any more money than we did last year, then we're gonna make some big changes that I think you can propose, if not right here, for years. Go ahead.
I've been on the cemetery board, and I want to happen there and we had resolved that. We can kind of to some of the people on there, and we try to run charity deals and stuff, but they started selling the assets, which was the money that was given, that was in the bank, didn't tell that the income rate got cut. And then people started going over that. That's part of what happened now. We did into that cash reserves. I guess what I'm asking, and I hope I don't upset anybody, and I'm not asking to cut any benefits for this, but the federal government came in here and we have big reservations. Is there any way that we have state people go to the federal government and say, you guys are the ones that said that these reservations are here, this is tax exempt? Is there a way, I'm just trying to think outside the box, that the federal government can reimburse the county for what we're not getting there because they have passed the law? These are things I'm asking, just think outside the box.
You're deal with that. But that's not the county.
I know, can we talk to state people or somebody to find out if those things are available? That would bring revenue, that would help the citizens here. I'm not saying to cut any of those things, this is the federal government deal. And the federal government, and they'll come out of our pocket too, but maybe a little less out of our pocket. They'll put some more back in our pocket. I'm just sitting there trying to think of things that we could do. Maybe get some people to volunteer to come up with some ideas that maybe you guys can look at. I don't know. Business people that can sit down and think of stuff, brainstorm something.
Sure. No, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I was gonna say, I support paying taxes because we are paying for services that the county is providing us. Okay? So, not anti-tax. I know you guys do the best job you can for conservative about spending money. Question here, this handout, it has a difference in the mill levy of 6, whereas notices have a difference here for the mill levy increase of 9. And, so I might be misreading something, can you clarify, please? Right at the top, left.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate this analysis, it's been good maybe to get this at the beginning of the meeting study.
I didn't think so, I'm sorry.
This might have been good to get this explained in some things.
That was the first time we gave numbers to him. That's the number we were at our first time in July, but the numbers changed and then so we use the latest numbers that we had. I think that was the case. Maybe they had some cash.
So you're down to a 41.7 mil, is that correct or not?
Initially, when we came up with our first round of budgets, we gave the cuts and then we realized, we gave the numbers and then we realized we were still spending. We were still spending cash at that point, but we're not really then. So the 3 bills come in, most of the numbers are 44, 45, 64, I think.
Okay, so that is built in the cash reserve,
So
that was added on there.
well, but in actuality, that gets us to just washing out. Road and bridges still spending cash. If we're building the general fund to offset that. So we're, does that make sense? We're all here to pay all day, but we're, instead of going backward, we're just staying.
So where are we at for a mill levy right now, like you guys have got?
Current
That we're looking at?
is 35.646.
No, I mean, with this 26 budget.
What, it's 44.6%.
So you haven't come down any off that 44. With what you've figured out, any cuts?
Moving forward, and we got our proposed, our budget proposal. We came up with a number. Issues make their cuts for their plans. And then that's the number that came up. But there's been nothing done since, that's July, when we came up with that. So any cut, or any, whatever, activity the commissioner figure on out, we'll have to lower that.
44, yeah, because I know at the hearing last year,
It's just like last year, we were like,
we kind of lowered it down and gave
we were trying
different
on
scenarios.
what we started out last year, then we went into the road bridge, we gave over $1 million back.
Yeah,
We gave our cash away to bring it down, it took us to 125,000 over revenue neutral last year. We don't have the cash anymore, we can't do that.
do we fund the sanitation? Around time, there,
That's self-funded,
That's-
that's
they-
self-funded. It's self-funded, we don't have anything to do with that.
does that bring money though into the county? Is that revenue, possible revenue?
So essentially, the Brown County money, I mean, it's not not-for-profit, but any of the money they bring goes back into that rental. So in fact, we went through that earlier in the year, we found out that landfill was essentially running under red, we weren't charging enough, hospital to get rid of the trash, and we were getting paid to haul it in, so we made the adjustment. And now the landfill is in the black, but just like anything else, they could make a lot of money and drive over to the. So we're trying to find the happy spot in the landfill where we charge enough that we can generate, but we don't charge too much and encourage people.
I have a question about the landfill. I was there the other day. What's the new building they're building beside it?
That's landfill, not just being office.
That we haven't needed that in 20 years. Why all of a sudden, when we don't have our budget, we're building a brand new building up beside the landfill.
Got a building,
Period.
a building out there that's,
Well, I know that's an old dilapidated building.
there's water running across the floor when there's rain, there's.
It's what it is, Rich. It's what it
Ice
is.
falling down on them when they're working in there.
That's a fixable thing. That's not a new building. I'm asking, with the budget the way it is that a wise decision to build a brand new building beside it? When it could be fixed.
The other one up and building.
So at the
They're a
time,
little different.
at the time we made this decision, that was money out of capital. The county had the cash to do it. We took it to a landfill building. I mean, I looked at it, could it be repaired, fixed, patched over? The answer is, we could, but he, to his point, I mean, it's pretty well gone. As far as what, no, they're gonna maintain it for storage. You're gonna put part of it back. But as far as having people work, we thought it was the best.
I think it was a great decision to raise your prices. The way the prices were was absolutely ridiculous. But it's more reasonable what you're charging now for there. It could actually make a profit instead of what it was. I looked at some tickets I had from 12 years ago and the price was the same as what you were charging just before you raised it.
I've said this with other counties around.
Yeah.
We were hauling it off for months, so the numbers are the numbers. It took just a little bit to figure out what's happening, and once we figured it out, then we can actually, it's quickly correct. But the building, I mean, is that?
Yeah, that answers my question, but I'm not out for less services and I'm not complaining of where my taxes are, although they are really high. It's just, I think if you need that money, explain exactly why and how we need it and let us vote for whether the county as a whole wants to pay that for that kind of services. I'll go in and vote yes for it and I may be disappointed it doesn't pass, but at least it gives everybody in the county a chance to vote on it without going above and beyond that amount. So,
I think I understand this correctly. So you guys, when you vote commissioner, that's when you're voting. That's our function this school. So now there's 2 years he's up, 4 years Bill and our report. So that's when you voice your opinion. I mean, that's not the answer you want here, but if we were gonna propose a sales tax, certainly we don't have that. But as far as just the county's budget, and that's the authority of this board. And we're thinning out the room, and we want to take as much time as possible. I don't mean to chase you, but we're going to do this again on Friday. Got more questions? Let us know. We're going to talk about it in the budget hearing. Well, we're talking about budget. It's an end of the month meeting, so it's a regular business meeting for the county. We go through some general business. We'll open it up for public comment we'll see. So if you have more budget ideas, concerns, whatever, that's what Friday, 5:30, this meeting. So I hope everyone that wanted to speak got to speak. And if you have ideas, let us know. And if you want, I can take some time to answer your questions. Or if you're out of time, we can do it soon. But if there's nothing else, actually, we're gonna do it.
Wait, I'm Patty, still here, and other people from the Workforce Society of that. But,
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
oh. I got a question for this Workforce Society. I think I'll kind of ask it before. But we pay the insurance for a lot of our buildings. Do people think all the buildings need to be insured, or is that someplace where we can make cuts? And I think Patty's talked to me about that before. And I'm trying to agree that there was some cuts that could be made.
I think it make cuts to that. Across the street, you're never gonna rebuild that building. Cause you're never gonna be able to refill it with everything that's in it. So I think that one could be cut to the bare minimum.
I'm not on the Brown County Historical anymore. I used to be. But I know that the county was paying for the insurances on that over there. And I'm with her. I think that all the stuff that's in there it's not insured, so if it burns up, all that antique stuff is gonna be gone. The thing is, if you look out at the Windmill Lane, they've erected 4 buildings thanks to Brunings, because I think that's a Bruning building. But you would think that they could move a lot of that stuff over there. Instead, they've made it more of a rental thing that you could go and make a party or whatever in that big building. I think there's certain things that need to be revisited there personally. I was their treasurer for a while. That I don't think that that's an added expense that us as taxpayers should have to endure as far as paying for that building. They sold the building next to it, the old World Building. Now, where do they take that money and put it over the old World Building next door?
Oh, okay.
The World Building?
It went to pay for the Bruning building because Brunings did not pay for that, all of that building.
Oh, they didn't see,
No.
that wasn't something that was
No.
necessary. To me, they should have saved that money and kind of taken on the responsibility of trying to keep that historical building open. But there is a lot of upkeep that needs to be done on that building, and they don't have the funds to do it. So eventually, I mean, it's wonderful that that building still exists because it's part of the Hiawatha. But, something needs to be done. I don't remember how much insurance about time it's paying. But, yeah, I don't think that was necessary to invest that money in.
I think it was 38,000 years. But just this building.
I can find it, I believe it's 26.
Okay, maybe that was all together.
So that building was purchased with the money that was down here. They bought it's Sarah Catherine's now. But the historical they bought it from the bank, I think, Sarah Bank. Turned around and sold it to Sarah Catherine's. Reinvested it in World Building. And then they sold the World Building. Not for very much, yeah.
Is there any more that comes before us? Sure. Got it. Well, Bill?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, close the hearing.
Well, yeah, we can close the hearing. Yeah, adjourn the hearing.
Okay, well, we're going to, so, we're not taking action on it, but the RNR thing we did. But we just start close the hearing. Yeah, we'll make that motion.
Go ahead. You got it.
I mean, essentially, gotta make, I'll make a motion to close budget hearing portion of the meeting. Also, okay, so move and second, everything that. So budget hearings are over. Now, we're back in just a regular commission meeting. Session. Meetings. And we don't, like, if anyone wants to take it and discuss, we can have an executive session, we can come back to the library. In the law, my law. So that's what we'll do, so, start.
We're done. The same as like the coming. Where's it to be? I'm gonna leave one in 5 minutes for this mission. Discussion. We're all right.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Except that she was there.
Back in the regular, no comment. Any other business, other than board of commissioners here, or about the fair? If there's not, is there a motion? Is there any other business?
Yeah, from this point on, to be able to get this. They are very, I mean, you get it, that's what we sign on the line to approve the budget. If we didn't do that today. Well, great. Pretty sure something. Go back to there.
So that person. So we haven't done it.
These are the irritations that are. State there. So that, I want to see the budget for.
We close out the budget.
Sorry. Yeah. I wonder. We still have, we haven't done the budget, we still have time.
Just do more than put your touch base on, see if you have, if we want anything. And this is. Rare than right.
Take the win today.
She's anyone watches.
I did.
No.
We don't do a live.
I just wondered if I need to explain why we're not doing it. Go away. It's a big part. That's all our, I think you're saying. But it's very important was that. That's how I saw it. What's the thing, getting all back, of course, sir. Killers. What you come up with, we should be good. Okay. Okay, so then, you were gone, your termination, got a new. What are you want from that? So. My inclination is, the idea of independent representation, but that's tell you, so. What do you guys think? Yes. This would keep 36,000. But we didn't talk about the. Johnny said, look, use.
Yeah, we also the number. Line item, along with the text line. Yeah.
I thought he wanted the benefits initially, and then dropped the price and the benefits when he came. Benefits he was in, all that was good for me. Yeah, I'm just gonna say. This, the Sunder benefits. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other guy, I was in your girl, he got a t-shirt. Got the, my suits. Another part of the prison. I remember it was going to be here for that. Or then that doesn't need to be in the meeting with you. That. So a lot. See, if people don't for 60 minutes, it would be. We're not stepping like we said, we're not always have relationship, it should be super independent. Representative for the commission. About, the intertangling stuff of the. So you know, I call it commissioner over that. Example, have, it's not important. Begin, let's say, he works on the big stuff. It takes them, all has accomplished with the priority on how important it is to us. I got a call from Monday from the commission, and that I highly recommend. Thought he was great, and said he was really good for their courthouse. Yeah. And he was able to do some things for me. This was me, and he really. Recommend. You want to talk to him again? We can talk to him again. Just keep it all, or if it's a little bit. Says I'm available, meet this afternoon. Let's, I'll actually ask you some of this, what he absolutely has to have, everything, make sure dollar amount, and, insurance, all that. We need to know exactly what it is. We're only getting X amount of hours, we're gonna pay above any big project, you're gonna pay him. Wait, I understood from him. That's like one of my concerns, but. At least I don't think they can worry about windmills or transmission lines and stuff for a little while. Well, actually, the federal government, we're still section, federal government, they're cut all the. Both of them. Okay, is there anything else we want to be discussing?
We're talking, we're talking this afternoon.
Do you want to talk to him today, or do you want to put him off? We got too many decisions coming at us at once. My question. So, I haven't heard from him, so my assumptions from him. I'll ask him what he put on Facebook, exactly wants.
We'll make sure we know what something said. That's all. I just want to make sure that he kind of side by side. The thought that he mentioned, so insurance and then. Couple of minutes, text me,
Suppose, do we need to have like a budget?
Put it all together. So. Well, if we have, where are we going? Make changes to the size. Takes time to think of it. So we have our meeting on Friday night. We're going for more ideas. Okay, Friday night's going to dawn, and we'll start like Tuesday forward. And the goal of complicated things, so it's got lots of changes. That's pretty bad, pretty long day. We had a work. Some actually had. Sure. And I already bounced my schedule for the Boston. And we have a work session just for Friday meeting.
Yes.
We still have time.
Work session, like session, basic decisions.
Well, we had some budget ideas based on what we heard today. We talked about it for an hour before, an hour and a half before Friday's meeting, and all.
Yep, for times.
Set up, I mean, 4 o'clock on Friday. I don't have to,
that's all we're on.
how long do you want to start? I'm very crazy.
I would say that it's beneficial to something more. That way, you can get Scott, had them. If you thought we had any of them to be. Will approve this on Friday.
I don't know how they can use this fast shop was. Before I have some of this one. I'll see that.
Works fine. That's good, because that's cheaper. Is it a work session or is it a meeting?
I mean, I just saw the website. Yeah. I just like to say that what I was like. Absolutely.
Thank you. Work session.
And we're going to work session in the morning, but.
Probably special meeting.
Special meeting, start with 15.
Never. Here.
Let's start our regular.
Right.
And a special meeting, we'll just have budget on. Just go through it for 5 years. But in that meeting, we'll be able to make some decisions if we can. But we were not bound. Right. So that's wow.
What's our drop dead date?
Have a budget for October 1st, 5 p.m.
We really don't want you to chat.
No. Yeah. And then you know, he's right now, you can say, we're confident, say, we're considering these items. So we put it down on paper and say, yes, we're gonna do it. It's all in consideration until vote on it, say yes.
All right, so official meeting 18/5/40. That's just by consensus.
Yeah, we'll have probably some.
Right, yes.
Basically, move and say, you know, favor say aye. 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 Anything else to come before? Commissioners, not move forward here.
Employee and somebody moving part-time, instead of full-time, like just come later, but. So like somebody's coming to talk to me.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn it?
So.
Okay, we say it up here tonight. Aye. Motion to adjourn.